Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women podcast for you and I, business owners, professionals, and we just like to invest, with business eyes. We put money in, we get money out. We're not into the smoke and mirrors, all that late night guru stuff. It does work. I'm not knocking it. It has its place. It's just like every place. And some of us started doing that, and we evolved into realizing, well, if you got cash, you got a stronger hand. So let's get you on a cash basis. So go ahead and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so yet. 30 some odd channels, downloaded in more than 30 countries. And also the website, myinvestmentservices.com. You can become a member. Just be part of the community. Go to the click on members area. If you're already a member, obviously log in on the left. If you're not, click on the right and you can check it out and get some free information to see if it's what you want to do. But there's a lot of us out there. We network, we joint venture, we look for good deals, and we get to meet guys like Keir Weimer, who's on right now. He's going to be our guest today. So, Keir, first off, welcome aboard. And I want to say I appreciate you sharing your valuable time. I know you're a busy guy, and this is an awesome subject, what we're talking about today. So welcome aboard, man.
Well, thank you, Gary. I want to thank you for having me here, and excited to talk with you and your audience, and grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I tell you what, I know a little bit about you, just our introduction here and reading your information. Just for everybody listening, just give them a painted picture, who you are and how you got there. I know you're in the Big Apple right now, and it's that's the center of the universe, man.
Yeah. It is, yeah. So I'm mid-30s. I guess characterize myself as a real estate and lifestyle entrepreneur. I own several seven-figure and up businesses, primarily based in real estate. Started as a luxury broker with a team at Sotheby's International Realty. Got my kind of familiarity, wet my tongue, if you will, and dip my foot into this business through a transactional lens and framework as an agent. Built some income and said, you know what, I always wanted brokerage to be a means to an end. So I started to quickly look at real estate as a very entrepreneurial endeavor. I think we all know, right, that it can be very multifaceted. There's a lot of ways to build a career, build impact, and create income and wealth here. And so for me, I wanted to look at things through the eyes of a principal and an investor more. So started to diversify. I started to start with some small multifamilies, got into hospitality, purchased a resort and a hotel, and buying another one now. And also realized I wanted to take my education and my network to a new level. So I actually applied and got into what I think is the world's preeminent graduate school real estate program at NYU, the Schacht Institute of Real Estate, which really up-leveled my entire command of the technical and specific skills required to be successful as an investor, and at a sophisticated level, but also my network expanded truly internationally and opened up all new opportunities for sourcing deals, finding partners, understanding markets, and eventually led me to my current partnership where I had the acquisitions team with a large group out of New York and Florida that invests in multifamily apartments around the country. So I think the theme there is always being entrepreneurial. I think a lot of your listeners are trying to build this in terms of, wanting to create passive income streams, but realizing that sometimes in the beginning, we have to be active investors, not passive, right? We need to learn our product, understand our market, get in the trenches, right? Not outsource the important competencies and functions of this, because when we do that, we can start to really build a team and a platform from which we can scale and be much more successful with a lower level of risk.
Yeah. Well, I love the philosophy, and I'm the same way. Everybody I teach, I say, look, I want you to outsource as much as you can, just not right now. I want you to learn it so you'll know exactly what you're asking people to do. You know what to expect, and they're going to know you know what to expect. So it really is, it's like the fundamentals of building a business. So what I like about what you're doing is you've learned to master and leverage the skills of building businesses with investing in real estate, because it is a business. I mean, they're identical, they're similar, and then you have profit, loss, income, expense, asset, liabilities, and you got inventory, and you got clients. And the thing is you can leverage the two against each other. It's a powerful, powerful model. So why don't you go ahead and kind of dive in, give us maybe your first deal or something you're doing now.
Sure.
Maybe both in order. Kind of give people. I want people to realize that just like you, man, you start where you are right now with who you are and what you know and what you've got. We all want to be at the highest level, but we start where we are. And I think you're a very practical guy, and I appreciate your history and saying the things you're saying. So go ahead and take her away, man.
Sure. Cool. So I think the first step I would recommend people do is this: is get really clear, seek and achieve clarity on your goals, right? What are your goals? So as an investor and a business owner, you should try to articulate the destination right before you start the engine, because otherwise you're going to be heading down a path that's going to be wildly discursive. We already know that the path of the entrepreneur is going to be a zigzag up and down, right? It's not a straight shot to success. The only reason I got to where I am is through a series of repeated but instructional failures, right? However, the point of getting clear on the goals and the destination is this: if you're seeking just to build cash flow and income, right? Or if you're seeking to fund some dream buckets, right? Or if you're seeking to really build net worth and do it through appreciation and sales of, home run deals, those are all going to require a different investment strategy, right? You're going to be looking at different types of properties in different markets with different horizons and a different approach to creating value. So step one, get clear on your goals and destination. Step two is up-level your skills and surround yourself with good people, right? So for me, just to your point, you want to think about each investment. If you're doing this actively, if you're not, and when I say active, let me distinguish between the two. A passive real estate investment would be buying shares in a REIT, right, a real estate investment trust, or handing your money over to a real estate private equity firm, or something where you literally have no say in the management or any responsibility. But we're talking about more active investing, I think, which really appeals to a lot of the listeners. So step two is treat every investment, whether it's a duplex 2-unit or whether it's a 200-unit, or whether it's a hotel or a mixed-use property, as its own business, meaning it requires a team of experts, right? So if you're starting out, really make sure that you're developing the skill sets in the core competencies that surround a successful investment. So that would be one. You obviously want to early on find a good broker that you trust, right? That's not just to mean looking at on-market deals, but that means you want somebody that can fill your inbox with some deal flow, that can, show you the ropes a little bit, that has boots on the ground, that knows investors, buyers, sellers, right? That you can learn from, right? Even though most of our deals, almost all of them are off market, there is still value in good commercial brokers. Two is make sure you understand how to evaluate a market, right? So understand the demographics. So maybe you're, going to need to build your skill set up in that, but in the meantime, you can get market reports, you can get expertise, you can get insight from that broker or from other people in the market that understand what's going on, right? Where are the jobs coming from? Where are the rents headed? What's the new supply look like? What are some of the comparable sales? That's important. And then, another key person on that team is management. Who's going to manage this? Are you going to manage it? Is it under 5 or 10 units? Is it manageable by you? Is it in a local neighborhood where you live? Or are you going to have a third-party management team? We're a big advocate of working with best-in-class partners. That includes property management, because we feel like we can then scale and look at other deals and not try to build, a focus on the day-to-day, but we also want to make sure that the day-to-day is run how we would run it, right? So making sure that you're really diligent in vetting your partners. So that's it. Step two is build that team of experts. And to your point, that team of experts in the beginning needs to kind of be you, because if you don't develop at least a working knowledge and proficiency on all these different areas, it's going to be hard to not only delegate that to the right partner that you can identify as the right partner, but also to have them take you seriously and give you the right layer and level of information, because they know that you have a level of expertise that will hold them accountable. So I think it's really getting informed and educated as an investor, which is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is I've been teaching this stuff for 18 years now. In the beginning, it was all focused on the investors. What happened is about probably 10 years ago, I created a program to focus on the agents who were serving the investors, but in the residential world, because most agents who understood investing were commercial agents, had a lot of training, and they understood investments and how to analyze them and all that. But the residential agents didn't know that. They weren't taught that. It's not that they're not smart people.
That's true.
Yeah. So I said, okay, well, I'll just create this program for them. And it was funny. That's the one that like took off like a rocket, because it was just unique and nobody else was doing it. So now we got thousands of us out there that they're certified, and to help these people get started, and then they can eventually grow and move into the bigger properties. So it's an amazing thing. But in any case, that part of your team is somebody's got to know what the heck they're doing. Either you or your agent. And I think you should learn yourself and work with one of the agents who can help you do that learning. Absolutely critical. And what's funny, Keir, is years ago, I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought, I don't really need the agent, so I can do all this on my own because I have a lot of pocket deals.
Yeah.
Only come to realize I'm probably removing myself from a lot of deals, by having that logic. So thankfully, God hit me over the head with a 2x4 and gave me a program to go along with it. So, okay.
That's awesome.
How did you actually, if you don't mind, when you got started, what was, did you buy something in Manhattan? Did you get something in New Jersey? What was your first real foray into the investing part of the business,
Yeah. So I'm actually recently relocating to Manhattan. So most of my investment focus and deals have been in upstate New York. So I grew up outside of Syracuse. I have a place and a couple businesses located up in Saratoga Springs by Albany, the capital. And I would say this would be a good case study. I took 3.5 years ago, we bought a bankrupt, totally distressed asset, 100-year-old resort on a lake in the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York, 30-room boutique hotel, 2 restaurants, events, beautiful 13 acres, sits on the mountainside of this popular lake, but it wasn't run right, had been invested in, and just was not managed properly for years. But it had a history of being successful once, and we knew that if it were repositioned and renovated and spoke to a new era and a new crowd, it could also become successful again. So we purchased this. We renegotiated the debt with a private lender that owned it prior. We got interest only for a while. We closed it down for 7 months. We renovated everything down to the studs, put in over close to $1.5 million into it, and we launched it for 4th of July in summer 2016. This was me, 2 partners of mine, a husband and wife team, who moved up from Manhattan to the mountains to manage it because they wanted a new life, slower, back to their roots up in the Adirondack Mountains. And 3 kids, no hospitality experience, no restaurant experience, no food and beverage, none of this, no project management. We GC'd the whole thing while we were recruiting, training, and preparing a staff of 30 new employees to meet the busiest weekend of the year and launch. And we were all early 30s ourselves. Long story short, I wouldn't recommend jumping into that level of intensity in your first one. However, it was a huge learning experience for us. And we were able to turn this historic property into a success. And 3 years later now, we just won awards for #1 best hotel and resort in the entire Adirondack Park, which is 6 million acres, over 300 properties. We have award-winning restaurants. We've tripled the revenue. We've really grown this brand. It's called Great Pines. It's a cool success story, and it's now given me confidence in all of those different areas we talked about to now do this and replicate it. So I've done this again, and we're buying another hotel. We're closing in a month, and it's going to be very similar. I'm taking the system, the managerial platform, and all the processes and creating economies of scale, and now doing this in other locations and other areas because we understand the model now. We understand the system to be successful. So that's another good example too. And for hospitality, for me personally, it's a kind of a more passionate and creative part of this industry, right? Sometimes real estate is very financial, quantitative, and numbers driven, like it should be. It's an investment asset class. I get it. But sometimes you want a little bit more to that. And for me, I like the creative element of creating a place, a setting, a design, an aesthetic, an experience for people to come and enjoy an area that I really loved and grew up in, which is the mountains of upstate New York. And we were able to do that. So there's an experiential element, there's a bring your friends and family element, and there's an investment element that's kind of a nice holistic tie-in to a very fun project. So that was a great case study. And I was actually the listing agent on that, Gary, who couldn't find a buyer for 2 years because nobody could see beyond the work that was needed. And finally, before it went into bankruptcy, we said, you know what? We have a vision for this. We have a capital plan. We wrote a business plan. We took it back of napkin to market concept in 7 months. And the seller won because she avoided bankruptcy. We got a good deal and a good debt package. And the guests, the community, and everybody else, benefited in the long run. So that was a great case study.
Well, I love the example. It's funny you mentioned something, like start small. And I do have a philosophy, which is start small, then grow big. but I've had my cage rattled a few times. One of my favorite, most successful students is a guy who's an engineer. His first property was a 94 unit apartment complex. I'm like, wow, that took
First one. Wow.
First one, and he's crushing it right now. He's just routinely buying properties in the 300 or 400 unit range, and he just didn't have the fear. He just thought, okay, the numbers work out. He just like laser beam focus. And most of us kind of started smaller and work our way up to that. But what's possible for people? So I see some of the things you're doing. You've got multiple businesses. You're living the model, man. Multiple businesses. Solid base of real estate. But what's possible for people? Maybe kind of paint a picture for where this can lead to. Maybe for yourself, but really even for the listeners.
Sure. So a lot of what I do, Gary, and my kind of why and mission in life now has evolved, but it's really this next chapter, starting this new decade, I just turned 36, is I want to positively impact and influence 100 million plus people in my lifetime. That's a lot of people, right? I got some work to do, but with my new book, we're launching a podcast, the events I'm speaking at and building out, and through digital courses and other things, using the internet to reach people, help inspire, equip, train, and empower them, much like you've done for your career, which kudos and hats off to you. I think it's awesome what you've built. I'm in this point where I really want to do that so that other people can experience the same level of freedom. I do this all for freedom expansion. I want to grow freedom in every aspect of my life. So things that I do support that, whether it be freedom of schedule, to travel more, to do more of my hobbies, like be out in Park City for 10 days skiing like I just was, to building income and wealth. They can help me do other things, meaning when you build a certain level of residual income with real estate, as we know, it opens up doors because it allows us to cover our lifestyle. And then other projects and things, investments we do, add to net worth, fund our dreams, allow us to be more philanthropic, support our communities at a higher level, start a new business or concept that's creative. So I very much look at it, again, through the lens of an entrepreneur. I want to be kind of portfolio theory in how I approach things, and use real estate as a way to fund that all, right? Because income and wealth funds and supports freedom, right? And a more free way of living. So that's what I'm about. I'm all about increasing freedom in any way I can and helping others to do the same. Real estate happens to be the vehicle or the means to increase income, build wealth, and expand freedom.
Yeah, it gives you the foundation upon which you can do these things. I know a lot of people invest in real estate, obviously, in the field I'm in, but a lot of people will say, Gary, I really it's kind of lost its luster for me. I'm not really enamored by it anymore, but I still do it because of what it does for me. It's a great statement. And everything you just described there, has that to do with there was a statement I read where you said, living the break-free lifestyle. What is it? I think you just kind of just described how to do that. And if you got more to add on that, that'd be great. But also, one of the things I noticed, you talked about the disruptive real estate trends and what to watch for. So you've got some great education, and you've probably got access to a lot of tools you use. But what can you see? What would you describe? What's an example of disruptive real estate trend that maybe we should be aware of?
That's a good question. Boy, we're really living in an age of disruption by technology, by consolidation. By the emergence of, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these new technologies that are in many ways displacing the human worker or the human element from transactions, right? From processes, from business, especially with the agent business and the brokerage sales. The real estate agent is in real jeopardy and threat as increasingly big companies funded by, large VC funds out west are trying to displace agents out of the center of the transaction and really go direct to consumer and just buying homes, right, from homeowners. So that's changing things rapidly. I think on the investment side, we're getting a lot of what we call prop tech. You've probably seen the emergence of prop tech firms, which is really changing the landscape in terms of how technology is used in real estate, right? So real estate as a field is traditionally very opaque, slow to adopt technology, and very not very transparent, right? It's because it's so privately held and everybody runs the real estate assets differently, right? Sometimes it's really hard to get good books, right, from a mom and pop owner, right, of a 10-unit apartment complex. These aren't very clear assets to understand, much like a stock certificate is, right, or a bond or an annuity. So I think what we're seeing in real estate now is what we saw in financial services 5-6 years ago, when fintech, right, financial technology as a field really started to take off. And you saw startups like Betterment and Personal Capital and, Acorns and all these apps now disrupting the space of traditional big banks because they're offering a lower cost way to invest, diversify, and manage your money, right? Fees were plummeting, right? And consumers were given more choices and options. So it's great for the consumer, but it just disrupts the industry and the model for actual practitioners. That same thing now is happening in real estate. There's never been a better time with more options for the investor to get involved, right? You've probably seen the emergence of all these crowdfunding websites and concepts, from Prodigy Network to Fundrise to Easy Street. There's so many of them now, right? I get a lot of their emails. I think it's a great way that's democratizing and making it easier for the retail individual investor who's not accredited maybe, or doesn't have, the qualifications of whatever, 250,000 annual income and $1 million in liquid net worth, to invest $100,000. So what it's doing is it's lowering fees. It's flattening the barriers to entry. I think what it's going to do is create more capital flows to real estate, which is going to be really good, but it's also going to drive up pricing because, as you know, whenever an asset class attracts more capital, it tends to bid prices up. So what we're going to see is, I think we're going to continue to see a bull market, although we have seen a little bit of a check in many asset classes, particularly in New York. I don't know if you're familiar. A lot of crazy new legislation and laws are passed now with rent stabilization, getting rid of incentives for landlords to invest, to renovate, to improve, and to spend CapEx dollars on properties. But I think what it means for the average investor and for listeners of your podcast is this: we need to become really familiar with what is changing. So what is the new technology that will affect real estate? What are the different ways that I can invest in real estate? How active do I want to be? And what are my goals? Back to my step one in the earlier part of the episode. What are my goals for investing in real estate? Because you need to make sure that your goals and your vision, right? Your reason for investing in real estate has a commensurate and corresponding strategy that addresses your risk return profile, right? And your goals. Because if they don't align, you're going to have, a disconnect that's going to create issues, problems, and potential loss of capital.
Yeah, well, I love the insight there. I mean, I appreciate that. Because I know you've had some pretty advanced education at NYC there, which is awesome. So, hey, just on a personal side, I noticed one thing here. You've probably had some other training too, but obviously everything we do in life, like, very rarely does a plan ever actually work out exactly the way you plan it. You always will get to your goal one way or another, but sometimes you take a different pathway. But so, what do you do personally or what do you recommend for people? How do they overcome adversity? When stuff happens. I mean, you've got this great plan, you're doing everything right, but life throws you a curveball. And you have a personal process you go through every morning, or what can you share there? Because you're a busy guy, multiple businesses, and I know what that's like.
Yeah. No, I know, Gary. I appreciate the question. I think for me, it was doing a lot of inner work, and it was realizing the importance of creating a very, very strong mindset and a very, very strong routine or way of living. So personal development, growth, self-help, lifestyle by design, all these things, these concepts are really important to me. I spend a lot of time, money, and intention around that, meaning I have a very strong morning routine. I have a very strong fitness and nutrition regimen. I have a very strong personal enrichment plan, meaning I read 3 books a month. I listen to numerous podcasts every week. I attend a lot of events. I'm a member of several high-level entrepreneurial and investing masterminds with other top producing people that are looking to be around better, higher thinking, ideas, and people, right? So I think this whole thing would come down to this, which is lifestyle by design. If I'm trying to expand and create a lifestyle based on an ever-increasing level of freedom so that I continue to grow in these areas, I need to be intentional about the inputs into my life. When I say inputs, that's just not what I eat for breakfast. That's what I put into my mind. That's the people I'm around. That's the routines and habits that I, impose upon myself. That's the way in which I schedule my day and my week. That's how I schedule my vacations and time off to, rejuvenate and refresh and replenish. So all of these things go into that. And I think it starts with mindset, getting really, really focused and committing relentlessly to what it is you're trying to achieve. What is your life vision, right? And then building a plan around it that supports that. So it's not just haphazardly hoping you get there. It's you have a concerted strategy. You're marshaling the right resources. You're putting yourself in the right circles and places. You're investing in the right things, which is not just investing in things that produce income. It's investing in things that produce dividends. So that's education, personal enrichment and development, listening to podcasts like yours, reading the right books, being in the right groups and around the right people, because we've all heard this, right? But I'll say it again. We're the average, and so is our bank account, of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So we need to be really diligent about who we're just around, because our mind, our account, our everything is a sponge, right, for the things that influence us in our environment.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite sayings for one of my own sayings is, our best thinking got us where we are today. Every one of us, our best thinking got us here. Our own internal thoughts, things, ideas we got from people we hang around. So if we want to be at a different level, our being is at a different level, and all the things that show up in the world, we got to think at that level first. You got to think at that level first. And the only way to do that is through training and education and hanging around people who are already where you want to be. That's why we have masterminds. That's why we do stuff like this. And I've been blessed to be part of some pretty awesome masterminds. I'll introduce you one too, by the way. After the podcast I'm going to make an introduction for you. I think you'd be an ideal fit. It's a lot of fun. And so,
we'd love to.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, we're kind of getting close on time here. Would you mind sharing, how can people get a hold of you? Do you have a special report, a website, something you can offer to people to kind of grab a hold and maybe learn more? And then some people are ready to operate at a much higher level,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Gary. I think the best way, if anybody on this podcast has enjoyed any of this, to get in touch with me, I'm super approachable. You can send me an email. You can look at what we're doing. You can see some of our programs, or just be going to my website, which is keirweimer.com. It's spelled KeirWeimer.com. There you can see a little bit about my story, background, the different ventures I've started, and most importantly, the programs we have with digital courses, our Sophisticated Investor Mastermind, the book that I just released called Live Inspired, which is to help people live more intentionally and energetically every day with 5 minutes. That's it, just investing 5 minutes a day. It actually became a #1 Amazon bestseller on day 2. We just released it last month.
Wow, nice.
So that's a great work of my philosophy on life and business. So yeah, I would just go to the website. We have a lot of free content there on our blog. I put out articles and things that I write personally and videos every week. So even if you're not, don't know exactly what you're seeking, I encourage you to go, because again, there's a lot of free content there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for sharing your valuable time and expertise, and even showing people how to get a hold of you and go to the website and read some of the articles you've written, and understand you got a podcast coming too. So it sounds like you're really getting into the ethosphere of humanity and be able to help a lot more people. And that's just how it works. I mean, Zig Ziglar said it perfectly. Just help enough other people get what they want, we got plenty of what you want. So when it comes to real estate investing, help other people invest. That's all I did. I mean, you can sum it up in one sentence through the different businesses, brokerage and property management and education. And I just did what I wanted and offered it. And that's I can't think of a better, more pure way to combine who you are with what you're doing, So
it's so aligned. I just want to say one thing, Gary. I really appreciate what you're doing and how you're serving your community and the world by doing just that, taking your expertise and your experience and not just holding it in for you, but opening up and sharing it with the world. I think that's amazing. It's commendable. It's what I'm trying to do as well. And we appreciate, leaders like yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And for everybody listening, God bless you too and your families. And, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Real estate investing for professional men and women. And also go to the My Investment Services website. Click on members, guys. Just check it out. If you're already a member, log in on the left. If you're not, clicking on the right, you can check it out, because a lot of us out there, and most of us business owners, always professionals in our fields. And it's just the way we go about our business, the way we lead our lives. And it's a great group of people. So welcome aboard, and everybody, thanks again, and thank you, Keir, for sharing your time. And hang on just 1 second while I wrap this up. And everybody else, we will see you on the next podcast next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.